Hi, everyone. My name is Paul Bartholomew. This is I Want to Hold Your Band, and today's guest is Vampire Weekend bassist Chris Baio. And this was such a cool thing for me. Our family, my wife and I, and our daughters are huge Vampire Weekend fans. And so I was just so excited to have Chris here. And yeah, we talk about Depeche Mode and Underworld and the Pharcyde, Junior Boys, Public Enemy, La Femme d'Argent, and so many more. It was a great conversation. I hope you enjoyed. Remember that all the songs we talk about are in the episode description. I have links so you can click them and vibe along with us. Follow if you haven't already. That's it. I hope you enjoy the conversation. And without further ado, I give you Mr. Chris Baio. So the first question I always start off with is the first piece of music, artist, album, whatever that you remember coming into your life.
The first time I remember getting really, really excited about just a song would have been Bohemian Rhapsody when I was a kid, particularly when like the first Wayne's World movie was coming out. I definitely wasn't allowed to see it, but there would be the commercials and stuff, and just that one scene of them all singing Bohemian Rhapsody in the car. And so I made my parents get me one of those, whichever one of the two Queen greatest hits albums has Bohemian Rhapsody on it. I can't remember which one. But as far as like a band and falling in love with a recording, it was definitely Bohemian Rhapsody when I think about it.
Okay, so a few questions. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Westchester, New York, in a town called Bronxville. I was born in the city and lived on the Upper West Side until I was 5 years old, and then moved there.
Oh, wow. My wife and I, when we met in New York City, and we lived at 81st in Amsterdam. So
that's where, my parents' place in the city, like where I was born, was right around there. Was,
really?
On West End Avenue.
So they wouldn't let you. How old were you when you saw Wayne's World?
Well, when I finally saw it, maybe like 11 or 12. I can't remember what year the first Wayne's World movie came out, but I must have been like 7 or 8 or whatever when I was first like seeing that scene at least.
And did you go get it?
Growing up in Westchester, there were 2 stores that I would go to very regularly. One was Sam Goody, Route 22, and then the other one was Tower Records on Central Avenue in Yonkers. And kind of from the time I guess I was 11, I took piano lessons from the time I was 9, but starting from when I was 11, I would go into the city. My dad would take me to the city every Saturday, and there was an HMV on the Upper West Side. So it was kind of like a whole ritual with my dad going to the city for a piano lesson, and then go shop and stuff like that.
Pretty serious going into the city for a piano lesson? Are your parents musical at all?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my mom was really into dance when I was a kid, and my dad played all sorts of instruments, and he had a band when he was, I guess, in his like late teens and early 20s called the Underground Railroad, which is kind of a funny name for a white man to have been
I was going to say.
But yeah, I have a recording of them playing a show in Brooklyn in the early 70s.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's pretty funny. There was like not that many people there, and maybe midway through the show, my dad got on the mic and said, "Thank you for your applause." Like, it's not a full applause, but an applause because of what the crowd was giving him.
So is your dad like a somewhat funny, cheeky guy?
Oh, yeah.
So Bohemian Rhapsody, and you saw that, and your dad took you in. I mean, do you remember, this is always an interest to me, did your parents listen to music? Like, did your dad listen to music a lot? Do you remember, like, did they have a stereo system, like, in the living room? Did you have one in your room? Like, how did your family consume music, and, like, how was it in the ether in your household?
Yeah, all that stuff. You know, we had a CD player and with speakers in the sort of, like, dining room in the house, and I have memories of being really young and dancing around the table to like Michael Jackson and stuff like that. And I would have had a little stereo in my bedroom probably from the time I was like 11 or 12. Yeah, my parents all they like followed new music. My mom, her listening habits would be more she would get really obsessed with like a song and listen to it on loop. So, you know, she would get into like, she loved the song Basket Case by Green Day.
Really?
Oh yeah, she loved the song Ball with the Ball by Kid Rock, which is an awesome song. And my dad was an avid reader of Spin magazine, and so he like would always be getting into new music. And like I remember being 9, my dad got into the Bad Religion album "Stranger Than Fiction," and I just got very obsessed with that album at a young age. And I always liked pop punk and punk when I was really in my like youth and heading into my like early teens. I mean, I remember when I was like a kid, I didn't like curse words.
You didn't like curse words?
When I was like 12? No, I didn't like curse words.
Was your family very, was saying
No, not at all. Not like religious or anything. Like I just didn't like curse words. And so my dad would go through Spin magazine and blot out the curse words so I could read it. So hopefully it's painting a picture that I had a very supportive and very like very musical family.
Wow. That's so sweet that he would go through and blot out the...
Yeah.
Did it get you, unsettled you or upset? Like, I can understand. I had things when I was younger that kind of triggered me or got me. I was like, I didn't like it. Do you remember what you didn't like about it?
I guess maybe that's a very good question, and I don't know if I can get into my 12-year-old brain right here,
Right.
but
in a stranger's home.
Yeah, I didn't like them. I didn't. It's kind of a funny thing because I definitely got to an age where I liked them a lot shortly thereafter.
I get it. Like because I was, in a lot of different ways that I, would take long therapy sessions, but
right.
But I had that, and I didn't until I moved to New York. I grew up in Texas, and until I moved there and met my wife, I didn't kind of become who I didn't like actually swearing either. That's what I'm curious. I was wondering if I had any relation, like why I didn't like it, and I was very, I don't know.
I guess if I think about it culturally, we are. I'm like of the PMRC generation, and
I should know that. I don't know what is that PMRC.
It was the group led by Tipper Gore that thought that curse words were dangerous, and the parental advisory sticker rose from that. At least that's my memory of it.
Yeah.
And so maybe it was political pressure on me as a 12-year-old or 11-year-old. But I would say actually, now that I think about it, like by the time I was 13, I got really into hip hop and like Illmatic by Nas, and it was written those first 2 records. So I would have shed that by the time I was like 13. Yeah. But so like probably like 10, 11, 12. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to your list. I'm going to start with one that I know, but then I think almost everything else I don't know.
Okay. All right.
So let's start with the first artist, Depeche Mode, which is one of your favorite artists, Violator, one of your favorite albums, and Enjoy the Silence, one of your favorite songs. So do you remember when they came into your life?
I had always, I think that growing up listening to rock radio, and in New York City there was a station called K-Rock that it's different from the LA K-Rock, but I listened to it pretty obsessively, and there was like a top 5 countdown every single day. I can't remember, it was probably like 6 or 7 p.m. But listening to alternative rock radio in the mid-90s, by then Personal Jesus and Enjoy the Silence were, that's kind of like the air that you breathe in a way. Like you couldn't avoid those songs. And I think to an extent you still can't really avoid them. They're just 2 stone cold classics. So I had always known those songs and appreciated them, but I didn't really get too deep into Depeche Mode until I was in college. And I had a friend named Eric who was a big fan of theirs. And by the time I was in college, I was doing college radio, and definitely, I guess, priority at that point was to find really obscure stuff. And a lot of, the stuff that I sent you is from that time. So getting really into this massively popular band, I wasn't doing very much of it, but then I listened to Violator, and it's just such a stacked record from front to back, and Music for the Masses, exactly the same thing, and Black Celebration, like the earlier ones. And I think that there's something super compelling and fascinating about Depeche Mode in that they kind of reached their popularity peak and what I would consider their creative peak on their 7th record, I believe is what Violator is. That's fairly deep into a career, and it's not something that you see very much of. I would actually say like Charlie XCX doing it with Brat last year, like that's fairly deep into her recording career where she sort of reached a new pinnacle. I feel like that's the modern day Depeche Mode, Violator. But I just, for that band, they were using sort of like cutting edge technology. I find their band dynamics pretty compelling. I think that Dave Gahan is such a great singer, and I guess like as a musician, musician, one thing that I find, like, I'll hear a song, I'll really like it, and I'll whatever, sit at the piano, figure out what the chords are, and sort of like see what's going on. I do that periodically, and usually, like, when I do that, some of the magic goes away, where it's like, oh, you understand what went into this. And one thing, when you sort of get under the hood of a lot of Depeche Mode songs, or the chordal movements are not normal. There's like a lot of surprising stuff going on when you get under the hood, and for me, Enjoy the Silence, there's all kinds of like accidentals and things going on just as a composition that after I learned it, I felt like the magic was still there, and the mystery, like why it works on that level. So I don't know, just great songwriting, great voice, using kind of like cutting edge technology at the time. It's sort of like everything I could hope for in a recording. And yeah, just Violator is completely stacked front to back. There's not a non-excellent song on that record for me. So it is one that I go back to all the time, and yeah, really one of my favorite records from one of my favorite bands.
Do you listen to, I mean, as a musician particularly, do you listen to music a lot in your life? Like when you're driving, when you're at home, or do you, like, you're going later to the studio and you're working on it, do you not listen to it as much as you think you would, or one would think a person who is,
Yeah. It really, it kind of depends on what I'm up to and what I have going on. So we just finished the Only God Was Above Us Vampire Weekend tour, and the tour, from putting the new band together to playing the last show, which was 3 weeks ago, was a 2-year process. So I've been in what I would consider to be tour mode, and being in tour mode, you get into a rhythm and stuff like that. And so I'm listening to music constantly. I've made 3 solo records in my career, and those are the kinds of things where when I get that spark and I work on it, it's kind of like all I can do, and putting in long days at the studio and, working on something and trying to execute a vision. And when I do that, I tend to listen to very little music. So when I'm in like making a record mode, that's when like listening to music, it takes a little bit of a backseat. So I haven't been there for a long time now, actually. My last solo record came out almost 5 years ago, but I'm kind of like thinking if I want to do another one of those, and at which point I probably won't be like listening to too much music.
How did you get into college radio? Like, why did you go there and work and do it?
Yeah, sure. I had always loved music, and I had had a band in high school that was a pop punk band, and like I recorded a lot. I wrote a lot of songs, and I made a lot of albums at that point. And I got to college, and I thought I would meet people and play music. And my first year, I didn't really meet anybody. And so with music being everything to me, there still is a really great radio station at Barnard College called WBAR. And, you get to college and you check out whatever, all the organizations, and it seemed like those were the people that were super passionate about music. And so, I ended up not doing it my first year, but my second year, I was like, okay, this is definitely for me. And so I applied for a show, and you get your first show from 2 to 4 in the morning.
2 to 4 in the morning?
Yeah. And
you're 19, 20, right?
Yeah,
you're
exactly. No, it doesn't. It's totally fun. And like I majored in Russian regional studies, and so I would have like my first class at like 9 in the, like the Russian, I was 5 days a week at like 9 a.m.
Oh, Jesus.
So like I would, be doing radio, get to bed at like 5 in the morning, sleep for 3 hours, and then get up and do Russian class. Yeah, I applied, and for me, like I was saying, like I listened to a lot of mostly mainstream artists and a lot of like punk and pop punk in high school, and the real benefit to doing college radio is that there was an incredible library. And so I would bring my computer and just pull CDs off the shelf and rip them and get into, a lot of different experimental, obscure things. And, that I view that as like my second education at college.
Oh, I mean, I'm so envious. That must have been an incredible. Did you have people, I mean, you go in from 2 to 4, there's probably not a lot of people at the station. Did you get a lot of people open your eyes to things, or not really, because you went there and it was just you and you would just pull shit and like?
No, I mean, of course, like I interned for the College Rock. It was what the genre was called, the College Rock music director, my sophomore year.
College Rock.
And so, yeah, I mean, like One example of something that came out then was the first LCD sound system record, which that was my sophomore year of college, and everyone was really excited about it, and I wasn't familiar with them yet, and then ripped it, put it on my computer, and be like, okay, this is some cool shit. This is interesting, and so no, I definitely did that, and we would also book shows, and so that was a big part of it, and found a lot of
You'd book shows like to come on.
At venues. So like there was like I vividly remember there's a bar on the Upper West Side at Columbia or Morningside Heights rather, called the West End that's been there forever and will be there forever, I think, unless it doesn't exist anymore because I haven't been in Morningside Heights. But in the basement we would put on shows, and I want to say this was that first year we put on a show where one of the artists was Dirty Projectors.
Wow.
Incredible band, and people I've gotten to know, and a band that we would tour with a couple years later.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Vampire Weekend opened for Dirty Projectors in 2007. It was us, the band Yacht, and Dirty Projectors, which was a incredible. I'll never forget that tour. But so got to see them play for the first time. I was just like, oh wow, what is this? This is mind blowing. And then another band called Akron Family that I really, really fell in love with, and I probably saw them about 10 times thereafter, like going to Akron Family. Yeah, just a great band, really one of my favorites from that era. And so yeah, just like for example, it wasn't just pulling CDs off the shelf. That was definitely a big part of it, but also there was a whole like culture around the station that changed my life, no question.
Very cool. So let's go to I'm going to start moving some bands that I don't know.
Okay, yeah.
So never heard of the artist Underworld, and they have a favorite song of yours, favorite pump-up song, favorite album. I will not try to say the album name. Dub No Bass in My Head, Man. Okay, all right. Yeah. That album's from 1994. Another song of theirs you like from 2002. So how did they come in during that radio time? Do you remember when they came into your life?
No, much later, actually. Well, have you seen Trainspotting?
Yeah.
So the big song from Trainspotting, you definitely would know it if you heard it. But really, I had always liked them, and I love electronic music. But I only got super deep on Underworld when the Dub No Bass reissue happened. So it was 20 years for that. So in 2014. Okay. And I, shortly before that, had moved to London. And I lived there for 5 years. I lived there from 2013 to 2018. And Underworld is just this great British electronic music institution. One thing that, their songs are, they can have 15-minute songs on their records. And they really they have an interesting history where they kind of started out as a guitar band in the 80s. And when they sort of switched to electronic music and techno in the early 90s, and those guys would have been in their late 30s at that point. That was when they really started rising in popularity. I was, for fun, I watched the mid-90s movie Hackers the other day, which I had never seen before, but there's like an Underworld song in that one, and they're just like, when you like a lot of movies of that era, their music is very cinematic. Trainspotting was the one that with Born Slippy, that was the one where they really got popular off of that. But like Vanilla Sky, there's Underworld. They're in a ton of like 90s. Like they make good music when you sort of think of like 90s
filmic kind of
film, like Y2K, like technology and paranoia and stuff like that. And so they're just an incredible band. And we with Vampire Weekend, we played this festival called Down the Rabbit Hole in the Netherlands in 2019, and Underworld was the headliner. And those guys were in their early 60s at the time. They're in their late 60s now, and they still tour and they play this absolutely pumping techno music. And they're still a very exciting, vibrant, and relevant band. I mean, they keep putting out records, and there's always every single one I really do love. So yeah, I don't know, just this really, really great electronic music institution. And so I always, when I work out, I love their music for working out. It's definitely all pump up stuff. And I don't know, one of the great recording acts of my lifetime. I really feel that way.
And it's really cool that also, I mean, I find that I do that with actors, seeing somebody going later into their career, and that they just find a groove, and that they're still doing it, and they're still staying artistically young in the sense of like playing gigs and doing things things and still vibrant, and like that's also inspiring to apply to oneself. I mean, I would think as a musician to see yourself doing that, you know?
I feel that way. And one thing I will say is that there are certain acts where they can go on stage and play new material and they have an audience that's excited for them deep into their career. Like the Rolling Stones, for example, they have their songs that they play in concert, and in the last 30 years it's been pretty similar. Maybe they swap out or they play a couple new songs, but the benefit of having a classic catalog and massive hits is that you have people that are very excited for those songs, and they have so many hits that if they were to play 5 songs in a row of new material, I don't, they wouldn't do that. You know what I mean? Because they have so many hits. But the kind of, like, I guess more of a cult act like Underworld, they can go, and I saw them in 2019, and they play half of it is new material, and the crowd's really, really into it. And that to me is the dream, really, for any artist, is to be in your 60s, get on stage and play a bunch of things you just wrote, and your fans are really into it.
Yeah.
So it's just I'm not, I would love to be in the Rolling Stones, but as far as like what my dream would be, it would be something like that, where you're playing new material, and the people who like it.
Yeah. By the way, one of our best concert experiences, my wife and I, here with our daughters, who are now 22 and 21, was Vampire Weekend at the Hollywood Bowl.
Oh, really? What year?
I think it was the first one.
But I can tell you what years we played it.
What was the first year you played?
2010. 2013, 2019.
2019, I feel like.
Okay, yeah, on Father of the Bride.
Yeah, Father of the Bride.
Okay.
Yeah, 2019.
Yeah, great show.
Yeah.
I mean, that's always, when we play there, it's amazing. It has one of the best performers' views on the planet.
Oh, really?
Oh, it goes back so deep, and it feels like
that's where we were.
Endless. Yeah. But no, it's an incredible place to play. On this last album, For Only God Was Above Us, we would finish the main set with the song Hope, and I got to be the last one on stage playing very simple bass every night, and doing that at Hollywood Bowl and Madison Square Garden specifically, it just having the stage to myself for a minute or whatever, 45 seconds, was something that I'll cherish for the rest of my life. Wow. Just very, very special, and yeah, those are just Hollywood Bowl is just such a classic, iconic venue that it's amazing, and it's incredible that we've gotten to play there a bunch.
Okay, so let's go to one of your favorite songs, Air, La Femme d'Argent.
Yeah.
Album's Moon Safari from 1998. How did that come into your life?
I remember when Moon Safari came out, and the big song on that record, Sexy Boy, and I just always really liked it. Just such a iconic French group, and it's not, I feel a little stupid saying this, but they're a French-ass band making French-ass music, and this record I had always appreciated. And then a little over a decade ago, I met my friend Mike, who DJs under the name Fort Ramo, and he is a huge fan of Air, and just hanging out with him and talking to him, it made me want to go deeper into their catalog. So I spent a lot of time with their records starting about a decade ago, and Mike and I went on to form this band called CYM, and we just put out our first full length a couple months ago, and they're just a very, very singular artist, and I've always had a deep appreciation for instrumental music, and I have memories of loving post rock. I still love post rock, and they're a great band where they balance music with vocals, with instrumentals, which is kind of like a delicate balance that I've gone for a little bit with my solo music, and definitely with this record. And Moon Safari is just this instant classic album that I can put on any time. It can be great active listening music. It can be great passive where you read along to it. It's a perfect record. And the opening track is La Femme d'Argent.
When you first hear a song, new music, do you first hear the music, or do you hear the lyrics? And then when you hear it, can you not talk about pulling back the curtain and like deconstructing a song? Do you does the bass line pop out to you?
It really, really depends. And when I was like learning how to produce and mix and stuff like that, I read about how, when you make music, you're usually doing one element at a time. I mean, you can definitely do multiple ones, but when you're working on it, a lot of the time you are thinking about one element at a time. But one of the beauties about music and making it, but also enjoying it, is that you can really turn that part of your brain off when you're listening to something. And so when I first hear something for the first time, I'm just taking the whole thing in and trying to enjoy it.
This was interesting to me. One of your favorite songs, Pass Me by Pharcyde, is it?
Yeah, Pharcyde. Starting in my teen years, I got really into hip hop, and I just think that "Passing Me By" is a perfect song. It samples a Quincy Jones song whose name is escaping me at the moment, but I don't know. There's something super yearning and in a way like romantic just about the song. And Pharcyde are just incredible rappers, and it's kind of like a bit of a story song where all these guys are yearning for a person, for a woman. And yeah, I don't know. It's just a great concept and instant classic song. Just when I talk about enjoy the silence being sort of like in the air that you breathe, where you hear it constantly when you're out in the world. I feel that same way about Passing Me By, where it just I can't remember the first time I heard it because I just feel like it's been in my life forever.
I'm always curious, like thinking of you saying that, and then like that was big for you in like high school and stuff, is like how people get pulled, like why the pull to certain music and certain things, like your dad, the things that he listened to, or your mom, like why do you, I wonder why you just all of a sudden, I wonder if it's because being in New York and you're in this incredible cosmopolitan hub where there's so much music. Do you remember kind of like why electronic stuff, why you got pulled to that? Have you ever, I mean, I don't know for myself why that is. So it could be just a question that's like.
No. At its core, I have always loved music with aggressive drums that are rhythm forward. And one thing that hip hop and electronic music share is that. And I love a good melody, like Depeche Mode talking about that, like the interesting chords and sort of surprising movements. I love all that stuff. But if you held a gun to my head and I had to choose between melody and rhythm, I'd pick rhythm 10 times out of 10.
Really?
Yeah. So that's just what appealed to me. That's what moves me.
That's interesting. So let's talk about one of your favorite songs also, In the Morning from 2006 album. So This Is Goodbye by Junior Boys. When did that come to you?
Yeah, so the Junior Boys, I had liked the previous album, and I knew that So This Is Goodbye was coming, and believe I downloaded a leak of it, and basically the summer of 2006, like I had mentioned, I studied Russian in college, but I went to St. Petersburg for a summer study abroad.
Oh my God.
And I ripped that album beforehand. So This Is Goodbye is one of my favorite albums, and kind of like then a modern version, an update on Depeche Mode, where very influenced by house and techno. And I think that Jeremy Greenspan's like an incredible producer and an incredible singer. And In the Morning, I just it felt like a song that I had known my entire life, but I knew I was hearing it for the first time.
Wow.
It's just production is incredible. There's like that sense of yearning, actually. I realize I like songs with a sense of yearning, like in Passing Me By. Yeah, just very beautiful, but you can dance to it. It is one of my favorite songs of all time, pretty handily. And anytime Junior Boys tour, I always go see them, and it's always great. So they kind of incorporated house and techno in a kind of poppier way, as opposed to like Underworld. And yeah, I don't think any recording artist really does it quite like they do. And if you took his voice out of the music, which I think is incredible, I would still be able to hear the production. He really is an incredible producer. So just a really, really important album to me when I was in college, and just like a really memorable time in my life living in St. Petersburg.
I was going to say, do you associate it with St. Petersburg?
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. There's another, the closing song on that album is called Femme, which is just absolutely gorgeous, really, really amazing song. So yeah, it's a perfect record.
Tell me about one of your favorite artists, Public Enemy, and Fear of a Black Planet from 1990.
Yeah, when I was doing college radio, I got very deep into Public Enemy, and Fear of a Black Planet is a very, very special album because records like that really can't be made anymore. And I guess, again, we're like talking about production, but so it was produced by the Bomb Squad. And those guys would sit around in a circle, have a beat playing, and then they would hit different samples and trigger it that way. And what I like about that album is it's very abrasive, and it came out at a time where you didn't have to clear samples to put them on a record. So like the opening track has guitar sample from Prince's The End of Purple Rain, and I don't believe they had to clear it. And some of the songs have like 8 or 10 samples. And shortly after that record came out, I believe it was Congress that made it so that way you had to clear every sample that you used. And so the Public Enemy record that came out after that, which is still very like excellent, the production's completely different. So if I were to say like an album that has my favorite production of all time, it's definitely Fear of a Black Planet, because it's this snapshot in time where a record was made a certain way, and it can never happen again, just based on what the rules are.
Did you play it a lot? What was your show from 2 to 4? First of all, did it have a name?
Well, every semester there was a different one, and it sort of depends. Sometimes it would be like a punk show, sometimes it would be like more indie alternative. And one semester I did a show that I called The Sound of the Funky Drummer. Basically, it's named after the James Brown song Funky Drummer, because that's one of the most used samples of all time. And on that show, I would play a song and then played the songs that were sampled in the song afterwards, or vice versa. Like probably in the first episode, I would have played Funky Drummer, and then for the rest of the 2 hours, I would have played a bunch of music that sampled Funky Drummer. So that was the one like hip hop show that I did, or at least sample based show on when I did college radio.
And would you do once a week, that show?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Chris, that's it. Thank you so much for coming, man.
Yeah, of course. My pleasure.
Really appreciate it.